Hi, I'm Jessie, a scientist turned content creator who's had some of the most honest, helpful, and heartwarming chats with fellow researchers. I keep thinking, I wish I recorded that. Someone else needs to hear this. So I started The Unseen Scientist, a podcast about the behind the scene lives of researchers beyond the publications and into the real stuff. Because what we share off the record, that's often what we all need to hear. Okay, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Unseen Scientist podcast. We are here today with the brilliant Dr. Maddie White. Welcome, Maddie. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me today, Jessie.
Such a pleasure. And just to introduce Maddie just briefly, because you do have an extensive career, Maddie did a PhD at the Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand with a focus on immunology. And then she moved to Scotland and continued her academic career at the University of Glasgow as a postdoc, and then moved to a translational research scientist position, which is very cool. And then after moving back to New Zealand, she was a senior research fellow at the Gillies McIndoe Research Institute. And now she's working as a strategic partnerships manager at the same institute. And then while having this demanding full-time role, she's also a co-founder and CEO of LabMates, which we will discuss in more depth later, I'm sure, in the episode. So with all of this experience in academia, but also in roles where you're blending academia with industry on behalf of many people, PhD students or postdocs that might be thinking about alternative pathways or careers after their research career or outside of beyond research. What does a day-to-day look like for a strategic partnerships manager, and what was your road to get to that point? Did it all come to you naturally, or were you always thinking about it at the back of your mind as you were doing your PhD or your postdoc?
Oh, so many, great things to think about. I guess probably starting back when I was doing my postdoc, maybe even during my PhD, I guess I always knew that I didn't want to be a traditional academic. And for me, that looked like someone who lectured and had a research group. And yeah, it was very, I guess, traditional academia, applying for grants and having students and postdocs in their lab like that, and studying kind of one central topic that they kind of stick with, and that's like what they're known for. And it just never stuck with me. And even in my postdoc, I loved the lab that I was in and what I was doing, but it wasn't like this is what I wanted to study forever and write a grant on. And I always thought I wanted to transition to industry, but never really understood what that would look like. And I know that many people sort of have that feeling or have that conversation with each other around like academia versus industry, and not really understanding what that path looks like. I did actually apply for a lot of different roles, but once I saw this translational scientist role in technology transfer at the University of Glasgow, that I thought I just couldn't miss that opportunity to try my hand in commercialization. And it was kind of around networking with industry and building out relationships that my very institutionalized brain thought that would be a really good opportunity to sort of feel out what industry was like, but from a very safe, more academic environment. And that was kind of the journey that I took. And then once I hit research commercialization, I was hooked on this business meets science field, and kind of knew that that was something that interests me way more than any topic that I had studied in my PhD or postdoc.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe this is how people feel when they find their like research topic that they love. And I was like, but for me, it was creating impact from the work, using the technologies that we develop in the lab and bringing that to the real world. And like kind of that theme has stuck with me from that role, sort of, when was that? Maybe 3.5 years ago. And ever since then, I've just been, I guess, growing myself towards a different, more modern scientist kind of role. And yeah, that's kind of how it eventuated. Coming back to New Zealand, the job market was very challenging, but I think I landed in the right place and built out the right networks. So yeah.
That's so great. And that opportunity landed to you at the right time, right place. So that's
Hmm.
wonderful. And I totally agree with you with the New Zealand job market being really tough. It is really tough, and I can feel it,
Mm.
especially through conferences. The last conference that I went to, Queenstown Research Week, people were talking about that as well, and it is tough.
Hmm.
And so what does your day-to-day actually look like as a manager?
Yeah, I guess the title, strategic partnership manager, is something that we sort of developed. Like, I guess I created that role out of the first job that I took at Gillies McIndoe was more like a translational scientist role, where I was working on a very translational project that was a QEnet Tier 2 funded project. And that was a really cool collaboration with Massey Ventures and AFT Pharmaceuticals. So I had a very lab role when I first came back, and a very set, defined project with milestones heading towards a translational pipeline. I sort of created this new role within the institute that kind of married some of the industry partnerships, the commercialization, but also supervising students and building out academic collaborations with the institute. So it kind of encompasses everything. So there'd be days where I would supervise a student and help with their projects. I'd get in the lab and show someone how to do something, or I would be talking to a client customer on a commercial project, or yeah, talking in-house, thinking about protecting our IP, training the students, that kind of thing. So it kind of is a little bit of everything,
Mm,
which
I
is
like
really
that.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really small institute, and it's kind of like you just have to fill the gaps of what fits. So I guess I got the opportunity to learn a lot of different pieces around leadership that was required for managing as part of the institute, and that was really like a really cool um, role to grow into and to learn and to build up your communication skills, but also really getting that that supervisory experience as well. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like a bit of everything, which was really cool.
That sounds like a dream job for me. I'd love that. Especially if you're interested in commercialization, that would be like the perfect fit. And at Queenstown Research Week, actually, there was a commercialization stream, or like a session.
Mm.
And there were people from, like, I think Daisy Labs was there, as you know, and
Hmm.
other people were there talking about um, why is commercialization so important for New Zealand. And there was one question from the audience that asked, um, is it important for PhD students to learn about commercialization as part of their syllabus, like learning syllabus, curriculum? Because a lot of people learn it post PhD, it seems, when they're like, oh, I kind of want to go into industry. I'll start learning about it now. Do you think, as a person in the industry of strategic partnerships and blending industry and research, do you think it's important for PhD students to have that as a mandatory part of their curriculum?
Yeah. Um, I guess mandating commercialization, I always am cautious to say, don't take away the blue skies research and that aspect.
Uh-huh.
But absolutely, I think there's a lot more that can be done with the way we upskill our PhDs and our researchers so that they have, even if they stay in academia, they have that ability to bring in industry on their projects and to work with different stakeholders. I think the way things have worked in a more traditional sense, that those skills aren't often developed. And then there's, even if you do interact with industry, the communication breakdowns because you live in this different world in the, I guess,
Mm.
academic bubble.
Mhm.
So it would be really great if that skill was developed during your PhD. And then if you were looking beyond, you kind of could say, you could lean on those skills, the project management, the leadership, the stakeholder, the communication, the storytelling, to kind of build out some of that. Would be really cool to see that in I guess, a PhD program. And yeah, and I hope that is something that's incorporated at least into the applied PhD scheme that's coming up as well. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
So is there a scheme? Is this something new in New
the
Zealand?
yeah the MB have an applied doctorate scheme that's just being released, and that should have some elements of, I guess, industry relationships. It'll be university and industry partners, and the PhD students will spend, I think it's at least 6 months within the industry partner. And
Oh,
yeah, so it's kind of like bridging that gap.
yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. And can you apply with conjunction with any university in New Zealand, or does it have to be a specific university?
No, I think it's open to everyone.
Oh, cool.
From my understanding, every university, there are 4 universities that are like running it, but any
Hmm.
university that can team up with an industry partner, and the project should usually come from the industry partner, because that will be more successful in terms of getting into the program. But yeah, they've just done a call, I think, on energy. So I think that's closing in October, from what I know. Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, for people who are listening, this is really great news. If you want to get into commercialization, it's good to get in early within your program. That'd be amazing. Um, So, in terms of partnerships, then between research or academia and industry, how easy is that kind of crosstalk? Because you talked about communication, how it's really important, but we're talking about different things here. With like Blue Skies research, it might not be so much about the money aspect or the financial aspect, whereas the industry partner, their primary goal really is is the return on investment, isn't it? So are there any discrepancies in that communication between academia and industry?
Yeah, I think it's quite hard maybe for a researcher or a research group to understand that um, an industry partner has a whole different set of things that they
Mm.
worry about.
Hmm.
And they aren't necessarily the same things that a researcher would worry about day to day. And fitting in with different people's milestones and timings and pockets of money and kind of what they want to get out of it is quite different. So, yeah, so having an open communication between what the goals are and why you're getting somewhere, and not getting distracted about an exciting science question that pops up along the way it's really hard. And I think, yeah, being able to have that communication piece open and to be able to share an idea but make sure that you stay on track is something that I guess anyone can do. Any academic or research group can and should engage in those kinds of conversations, but I think that's where it maybe hasn't been super successful in the past. um,
Hmm.
as well as maybe talking about how what you do in the lab might be interest or of interest to an industry partner, and it isn't necessarily the thing that a researcher thinks is the most exciting thing for a
Mm.
research partner, because like a lot
Right.
of it's like the how you do something,
Yeah.
and then could you apply that to my thing is usually how it goes, not I made something, do you want the something. It's
Hmm.
actually the process. So yeah, I think there's a lot to unpick there.
Mm. And do a lot of people who are in industry now or commercialization, do they come from a science background, or do they come from a business background?
In terms of the commercialization, like the tech transfer office, they usually are scientists.
Hmm.
Um, it's a mixture of postgraduate experience in that background, but the people in commercialization aren't always the same people who do the collaborative partnerships with industry.
Hmm.
So it depends on the university or the institute, and how closely those two groups of people are actually mixed. And
Hmm.
sometimes the people who manage collaborative partnerships and yeah, those kinds of industry contracts are like the research office and not the tech transfer office. So they're actually
Right.
sometimes two different groups of people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's confusing as a researcher or former researcher, because there's a lot of spin-offs that come out of research. And then I was talking to my ex-professor before at Queenstown Research Week as well. And the easiest way to commercialize your research would be to go through an office or
Mm.
commercialization office within the university. But then there's also other ways of doing that, isn't there? Like you could go and pitch to venture capital and then get money that way. So for you, what would be the easiest way or the most, I guess, beneficial way for a researcher to commercialize their research? Because obviously if you go through the research office or the commercialization office embedded into the university, it's easier in that you don't have to worry too much because all the steps are there for you. So what are your thoughts?
A lot of thoughts around that.
Okay.
Because it depends on so many things. It depends
Right.
as a researcher what you want out of something. Like if you
Mhm.
just want your idea in the real world, but you don't need to stay with that idea, then quite often you'll pass it to the tech transfer office and they'll
Mm.
sort of pick it up and help you along the way. But you might not need to be involved in that process, or it might be a student of yours that will go out with that spin out, for example. But I guess the thing to think about is that in terms of commercialization, I try to think about it like impact.
Mm.
And building impact from your research can be you sharing know-how with
Mhm.
industry, you commercializing something through a patent and licensing it, or you could create a spin out.
Mm.
Um, or you could do sort of like consulting. And sometimes consulting goes with a patent because a company can't license your idea without your know-how. So it's kind
Well,
of like a two-piece
yeah.
agreement. So it really depends entirely on the thing and what it is and what you want out of it. I think the tech transfer office is there with the experience and the negotiation skills and the networks that can help get your idea out into the real world in a way that, as a researcher, you spend so much time thinking about your project and your academic collaborations. Like, how could you possibly have a whole network outside
Right. Mhm.
with industry as well to kind of be successful? So I think there's lots of layers to it, and I'd say absolutely, if you think you've got a great idea, go to the people with the knowledge and they'll decide if that's an idea that they can work with or if it's something that you can do independently. And like those are just conversations to have early.
Mm. That's a really great point. And I did also wonder if somebody did spin out with the company, but they still hold a research position as a professor or a PI at the university. How do they manage that workload and manage their time?
Yeah, that's actually super common,
Mm.
and I think it's I think they'll reduce things like teaching hours or the number of
Mm.
students, that kind of thing. And I think it's a really nice like cushion for them if they do want to circle back to the university. And with that, though, they'll bring that commercialization knowledge. So even if it's not successful in the,
Mm.
you know, made lots of money and now I retire kind of way, but they're actually bringing that commercial acumen back to their students that they might have in the lab. And that usually creates more and more startups. And sometimes there are just some professors that like to have their ideas and they kind of let them go with their PhD students or
Mhm.
postdocs, and they've had multiple spin outs or license deals, but they're just happy doing the thing that they love, which is teaching and having a research group and focusing on the research. So it can go in so many different ways.
Mm. And I guess if they do send the company out with the student, they might stay on as like an advisor or a
hmm
consultant within the company, right?
Yeah, quite often they would. And it would be their idea if there was IP associated with the spin out
Mhm.
anyway. So they would have either some level of founder equity
Mm.
or royalties off the patent that they would be working on. So it's kind of like a win-win, and that could be a really great way to get a revenue stream back to the lab as well. So it really there's just opportunity.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another funding stream. Like,
Yeah.
that's actually really, it's so topical and necessary right now, especially with New Zealand research. So that's great. I did want to switch gears a bit because, and go back to collaboration. So, how important is collaboration within academia?
It's big. And more, right? Like I feel the way I feel. I don't know if this is your experience, but I feel like technology has moved so quickly
Mm.
since I started studying, or I finished my PhD 10 years ago. So like even in that time, the pace of technology and the way things have changed so quickly, you can't be an expert in every domain. Like I couldn't do all the next generation sequencing you could do, for example, or and back in my heyday, like you couldn't maybe do flow and cell sorting the way I
No,
could. So
good
like,
not.
but then when it comes to publishing or getting all the information for your project, like you need people with those different skill sets. So collaboration is so important, and finding the people who can help you in your project instead of trying to be good at everything. I mean, that just this doesn't make any sense. So yeah, absolutely. Collaboration is like number one thing. It just gets hard when people feel competitive about money.
Right, right. It's really interesting. I've noticed this. I'm sure you would have noticed this too, but I feel like Australasian scientists are more collaborative than perhaps overseas scientists. So when I go to conference in Australia or New Zealand, there'll be like at least 5 authors on an abstract. And then if I go to the States, it feels like there's like 3, maximum 4 sometimes. And then of course, like the 2 at the end are senior authors, or so they're supervisors, and most of the work can be done by 1 or 2 people. And I'm like, amazing. How did you do all this work completely alone with some minimal help from the supervisors or a lot of help from the supervisors? So, and it's kind of like a badge of honor in a way where they're like, oh, I actually did so much of this work. But right now, I feel like in Australia and New Zealand, we actually encourage collaboration a lot. Recently, we had an internal award ceremony, and collaborative impact awards were part of the award ceremony. And so it's and there's grants that are particularly specifically for collaboration. So do you see a little bit of a difference between ANZ and also overseas scientists?
I think it kind of depends on the lab. I think the lab that I was in Glasgow and the environment that I was in was also really collaborative. So I saw a lot of collaboration, but like proper collaboration. I think
Right.
sometimes I see collaboration that is just so they can get the collaborative grants, or, they're just putting someone on and you could maybe do this bit and I'll do this bit, but I'll actually lead it. And,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I would like to see more collaboration and like less competition. But I think that might be it could be a states thing, or it could be a mindset of certain areas or certain pockets, in terms of competitive and not being super collaborative. But yeah, I do think there's a fair amount of collaboration going on, which is good.
Yeah, and I did think maybe is it a funding issue too, in that without collaboration, it's hard to do the research in ANZ, whereas in the States, there's just so many more funding streams that they don't have to collaborate to succeed. So there could be like another facet of that. But I do like the collaborative aspect. I think all of my projects have been very collaborative. I work with so many different types of people, and it's actually quite fun. And I think that having different angles is just so imperative with thinking outside the box and generating new ideas and interesting types of methods. So I love that. I love that aspect. I wish we had more of that everywhere. So what are some of the challenges with collaboration at the moment? Do you speak to people at Gillis McIndoe or people that you meet from conferences and they say, this is making it really hard to collaborate?
Yeah. I think just finding the people that you need at the right time can be really challenging. And I feel like there's a bit of a squeeze on funding for conference visits for, to kind of find the right people. And I think collaboration is easier. So the lab that I worked in for my postdoc was very well funded and had a very prestigious PI. So funding was like open an email and there were, people saying, could we use your model for this thing? And then it was kind of like I got to pick and choose as a postdoc.
That's
And
so good.
yeah, which was really fun. And it wasn't like there was no talk about like could we afford it or anything. It was really cool. But I feel like where collaboration and the barriers get really hard is when you're like an early mid-career researcher. And if you're in a lab where you maybe don't have the funds to go to all the conferences, or you maybe don't have the resources or to kind of get those projects off the ground, then it's very hard for you to kind of make it. And even if you talk to the bigger professors that have the money, and you can help them, you feel like you're always trying to push really hard to make, like, to build that trust with them that you're good enough. So I think it's like definitely different levels. And I think if you're younger, it feels hard. Like collaboration just feels a little bit too hard.
And that's a really great segue into what LabMates is. Could you please, in your own words, describe and explain what LabMates is?
Yeah, absolutely. So LabMates kind of fills that space. It's a place where the early mid-careers can flourish because you have that visibility and you can connect with more people. And it's not about who you know or what you know. It's about sharing your ideas and your capabilities. So it's an online platform. And at the moment, we're really focused on those early mid-careers and giving them visibility and giving them community and giving them some upskilling so that they can take on bigger and better projects and work together. So it's kind of a space where you can help each other as scientists and share your resources and your capabilities. And one of the ways that we're actually achieving that growth with those early mid-careers is bringing on different networks. And we're just onboarding a bunch of different networks across New Zealand at the moment, which is very exciting. So we have quite a few people signing up every day, which is like a dream come
So
true.
cool.
Yeah, so cool. And some of those are helping their multi-institutional networks collaborate with each other, or alumni of their networks, or some people who are interested in commercialization and medtech. So yeah, we have these little community pockets kind of coming on. And as part of that, we're also going to be launching some out of our LabMates initiatives. And they'll be around the sort of career support piece and like how to get the most out of LabMates and and just helping people stay connected. And I think that that is a really important piece because it is quite hard to find the right people at the right time. Yeah.
And I've been on LabMates for the past couple of months, and there's really great content on there. And I think people do talk about different things and comment on each other's posts, which is fantastic. And there's different interest streams that you can get into, like startup space, or if you're career development, if you need that, you can do all of that. And I've always thought about, and we've discussed this a couple of months before as well, but I do believe a forum or a community, online community, is so important for early to mid-career researchers and PhD students especially, because it does feel like we're always being siloed a lot of the times. You might be the only one in your lab group that does a specific project or a specific technique, and you just need some help discussing results, or if you need someone to collaborate with, then yeah, this is really the place to do it. And I'm so glad Maddie has worked on this. She's providing for us, which is fantastic. So please, people, use it. Use the service. It's there. The platform is there. And I wonder if you've heard of any success stories coming from LabMates usage.
We've had like a couple of like glimmers, you know. Someone came to me and said, I had never heard about this event before, but I saw it on LabMates, and I was like, that's so cool.
That's so cool.
And I was like, heart moment. And then one of our networks that's come on, they've been looking for something to kind of keep them together, to have discussion forums, but also all their resources. So they've got a sort of private space that they've created that they let all their people in. And we've just initiated like a password on that so that they can send it to all their people and they can sign up. And they've got, I actually can't see what they've got, so I'll have a debrief with them. But for them, it's a place that they can kind of stay connected with their network, which is really cool. And so they're really excited about that. And we've got someone who's come on and they're doing a startup, but they're in a very different space to what their startup is aiming to work on. So they're like more in engineering, but they're looking at sort of a medical device. And for them, their point of call is to say, hey, I need to do some customer discovery with some biologists. Can I have a chat? And they get to post on that as well and say, I'm doing this thing, who can help? And it's like really cool to see that that community is there and that support is there, and it's across different organizations. So yeah, it's really cool.
It's like your fruits of your labor. It's
Yeah.
finally coming out, which is so good. And
Yeah.
currently, it's mostly New Zealand-based scientists, but you're hoping to open it up to all sorts of different countries
Yeah.
and scientists from all over the world, which would be amazing. Do you have any plans with that?
So at the moment, I also thought that. I was like, oh, it's mostly New Zealand. And then we recently added countries onto our like people search, and we have 21 countries in there. And I was like, oh,
lovely.
And I think it's because a lot of it is alumni as well from one of the networks. So they're in different places. And I think that's a really cool way to grow outwards as well. And I think the important thing is that we've always had a really global mindset. And because that collaborative piece is not always local. And so we do have that ability to be global. And I think like even now, so if there was someone and they were overseas and they wanted to sort of check it out, of course you can go on and go ahead. It's just it might not have the same like the events and certain elements, you know, like that your community might not be there yet, but it is, yeah. So yeah, very soon we hope to be Australia, New Zealand for a little while we figure out our beta and make sure that we're building the thing that people want.
So awesome. And is there like a direct messaging function at all?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Private
there's
message
like a chat.
is the best. Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. I didn't see that before, but I can use it.
Have you seen the word game?
Oh, I saw it on the side. I need to go click on it. I need to do that. Is it like every day there's a new game or? Oh, okay. This is giving me vibes. Like, what was that one that used the Wordle? Is it Wordle?
It's Wordle.
The game?
It's like Wordle. I mean, I can't say it's Wordle. I feel like that might be trademarked, but
Oops.
it's
Wordle-esque.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'd love it if you have like a leaderboard or something like that so people can like battle it.
You think we don't?
Oh my gosh, you do. I have to go. Sorry, everyone. I have to go look at it again. My apologies. But it all sounds great. Fun place to hang out and get connected to people, which is amazing. And I think that after conferences too, if you want to stay connected, this is a way to do it. And especially because conferences have very specific types of themes. And so you can get connected in those interest groups and it would be great. And it's much better than going on, say, LinkedIn or X or any of those general platforms where you have non-science type of things that you might not want to have a look at and, discombobulate your mind too much. So having a very science-focused platform where you can talk about science and your career related to science seems perfect. And so how did you come up with this idea in the first place? So did you come up with it during your time at Gillis Mackinder, or you had that thought way earlier?
This is such a fun one because I never thought that I would be the person who wanted to start something, and which might seem weird now, but I just don't think I was the same person a couple of years ago. You know, like you evolve.
Yeah.
I think it was about a year ago when I decided that we would do it. But maybe just before that, I was like, opportunities are so hard as a scientist. Like, why can't we connect with industry? Like, why can't we have a partnering platform that empowers like the researcher? So not the tech transfer office, which there are partnering platforms that exist at that level, but like, why can't we find each other? And as researchers and like, I want to find someone who does this, who can help me, who wants to go in on a project. And and that like annoyed me so much that there wasn't like a place for that. And then started to think about what that would look like in terms of a marketplace type thing. And then I guess as I went digging, I was like, this problem is much deeper. Like ResearchGate isn't good enough. LinkedIn doesn't help you. There are so many networks. Like it's confusing. There are so many great research services that do bioimaging or do flow cytometry, and all of that expertise is locked up in one institute, and it just doesn't make any sense. So it kind of just had to happen. Like the more I sat with the idea, it was, if I'm not going to do it, who's going to do it? And I was like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
and you did.
And I was like, so I'm just going to do this thing. And then obviously there are like the highs and lows of doing a startup mean that you get excited about something. You're like, this is the thing. And then you'll find out that that's maybe not quite something that people are actually interested in signing up for. So yeah, I guess we still have a long way to go. And excitingly, I am going to go all in on this. And yes, it's very
When?
exciting.
Oh my
As of
gosh.
the end of the month.
Oh my gosh. That's so soon.
Yeah, which
Oh
I
my
feel like
gosh.
a fish out of water a little bit. But you know what? It's like, I think I've heard people say this, and I was on a career panel earlier this week, and it was sometimes you just have to take the path of least regret. And it's like, if I don't do this now or give
Mm-hmm.
this a proper go,
Yeah.
will I regret it in the end? And as scary as leaving a full-time paid job is, like, LabMates needs me.
Yep. That is so cool. I'm so happy for you and congratulations. It must have been like a really hard decision, but you're just going for it.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I remember speaking to you a little while back, and then I think you were sort of like, oh, like maybe later down the road, but it's so soon. A couple of months later, you're like going all in. This is perfect.
Yeah.
And it takes so much courage. As I was speaking to a couple of other people who are interested in doing startups, they are a bit afraid, like you said, a bit afraid of, you're risking so much, especially if you have a family and you have responsibilities and you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to work? Financially, am I going to survive? And so maybe could you please walk us through that experience? I understand that you do have a family and children, which is amazing. And doing this on top of a full-time job is crazy to me, to be honest. So did you really think that LabMates doing this full time would be like your calling, plus the fact that you can get enough sort of runway financially that it will be feasible for you to maintain that lifestyle?
Yeah. I think lifestyle's definitely going to take a hit. So I have two kids, and one is still in daycare, but getting very close to school. So when he goes to school, then I will have a little bit extra money. So there's kind of a little bit of that as well. Yeah. And I guess the decision-making process is that I always was getting to the point where I was like, I'm going to grow the brand, right? Like, I kind of put a new marketing hat on, and have been trying to figure that out for a while. Like, build in public, try to find out what people's problems are. Like, just talk. And surprisingly, that went really well. And yeah, and I never thought that I would grow the brand so quickly that we have a pretty good presence and awareness, which is really, so that was really cool. And then it was kind of, I was always chasing that, or more recently I've been chasing the brand or trying to stay up to get things out to kind of keep it going. And it was kind of like, I felt like I was starting to drop the ball and I couldn't do both, parenting, full-time work and startup. And it was kind of like, when do you do it? And it doesn't feel like the right time. But I feel like I've listened to enough podcasts or talked to enough people that it's like, it will never feel like the right time. So it's kind of, you've just got to jump. And yeah, so I think, okay, I can go all in. The thing that I'm obsessed with is the startup. Let's give it a go. And that's kind of where I'm at. And it's going to be hard. We're not going to have enough money. It's going to be a crazy few months, but I think you'll make the right decisions for the startup when you're focused just on the startup. And I think that's where we're at. We'll think about monetization. We'll think about how it grows, who the right people to advise us will be. And I think it's kind of the right time, and it's scary.
Wow. You are so brave. I am in awe of your courage again, because I also want to have my own startup at one point. So I understand what this is kind of, or I'm trying to figure it out. But it must be such a crazy time, but I'm so happy you're doing it. It's just amazing. And I am so looking forward to seeing you more at conferences, but also at startup events, which I'm going to see you more of, which is good. And I understand that you are part of the MOA Startup Aotearoa. Is it Founder Catalyst that you're with?
Catalyst.
Could you please explain more about that program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Founder Catalyst is one of the best New Zealand startup programs that you could go through
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of different reasons. The people who mentor you through that program genuinely care and
Mm.
have such good experience behind them. The cohort you go through with are like in the trenches with you,
Oh,
having the
sweet.
same,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like having the same kind of problems. Sometimes you'll know more about something, and sometimes they'll have something really insightful to say. Like, so cool. It's a 9-month program, and they, yeah, put you through everything. They give you an entrepreneur in resident who spends a few hours a week with you, like, yeah, figuring out your next problems, helping you do like sprints and goal setting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and they don't take any equity for this, so it's,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
it's, yeah, which is, it's really cool. So
Pretty cool. Yeah.
for me, like my motivations for going through it was that I really got into the idea of a startup and a business and all of that, but I just felt like there was so much I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't
Mm.
know at this point. You know, I was like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there are so many things, you know. So now being in the program, it's like shareholders agreement and data rooms and preparing yourself for raising capital if you wanted to raise. But even that, it's like good practices around what it looks like to set up a business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of the things like you'll gravitate towards things that you like more. So I turns out quite like marketing, but I don't really like storytelling yet.
Right.
I'm getting there. You know, like there are
Yeah.
certain, you're like,
Yeah.
some. And like, yeah, I don't know, thinking about tech stack, like it's like there are certain things, but um it is such a great program for kind of bringing all your ideas together, and the
Mm.
people that you go through with, like amazing bunch of people, and quite often you'll have a cohort of amazing women with you as well, which is really
Oh,
cool. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So highly recommend if you wanted to go through a sort of an accelerated program and kind of fill your own gaps. I think that's really, it's an amazing program. And I think I'm just past halfway now.
Great.
And so kind of like being able to go all in at this point means that I've got a bit of time where I can really make the most of the end of the program as
Mm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so good. I've heard that you get like is it a desk at the center?
If
No,
you're
you
in
don't get a desk.
Christchurch, if you're in Christchurch.
Oh no, because you're in
Well,
Wellington, aren't you?
I think they might have an agreement in Wellington, but I don't know.
I mean, if you prefer working from home, that's great. I just like eat too many snacks at home, so I'd like to have an office somewhere. But yeah, oh, that's wonderful. And actually want to backtrack a little bit more. You talked about validating your idea a bit and talking to different people what their problems were. So did you try and use the lean startup approach, basically, where you're trying to validate first, or did you kind of do it at the same time you like launched and you're like, I'm validating at the same time as I go, or did you? How long did you validate for? Is kind of what I wanted to know.
So I guess I cheated a little bit in this, and I actually built an online presence on LinkedIn before I even knew I was going to do a startup.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it strategic? You did it strategically or just for
I did
funsies?
it. I did it because there was like a gap in the ecosystem around commercialization and like people working together and kind of like leadership. There was a kind of thing that I wanted researchers to think about,
Mm.
um and I just started talking about it, and I think that was, it could have been like 2 years ago now, or yeah, it's been a while.
Mm.
And I just sort of started doing these like LinkedIn posts, maybe once a week,
Mm.
or maybe once every couple of weeks. And like that was kind of in a way, it was a selfish thing. It was a way where I was growing my network,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly in a space there weren't a lot of jobs, and I kind of wanted to be known so that if I wanted to do the next thing, that I would have presence and kudos, and people would know me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's generally how a lot of people get jobs. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to be in this space so much that I just would talk about it in these sort of thought-provoking posts, and yeah, it led me to so many different conversations and like networks, and like people in the ecosystem started knowing me, and like it was, yeah. And it was all around that piece, but it kind of morphed my ideas into what became LabMates. So off the back of like building a personal brand, instead of finding myself another job, I decided to do a startup.
Which is amazing. And you say you're too humble and you say it's selfish, but no, it's not. It's just being smart. And it's a great way to build your network, as you said. And a lot of people do it. A lot of people do that, don't they, on LinkedIn? So,
oh yeah, there's like a LinkedIn game you can play in a way. I think
what's the game? What's the game? Tell us.
The game of LinkedIn. No, I think having a presence, but also just being a human. So like, people always think that like posting on LinkedIn, having something to say on LinkedIn, and actually like doing a post or having an image in a post and saying something smart is the thing, but actually it's the comment section that is where I get more of the connection. So if I post on someone who's kind of got a big brand, personal brand in the kind of space that I'm interested in, so lots of the connections that I get are actually international as well. Then either they'll comment back and then we'll have like a little conversation in the comments, or then next time I post something that's kind of related, like they'll comment, and it becomes like this game of kind of like, a game sounds like you're making it up or it's pretend, but it's like you're actually connecting with people in a really human way, and in a way that you wouldn't if you. I don't super love the idea of networking at conferences. Like sometimes I find it really hard and I just don't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And, like that's okay too. But I think it's quite easy to jump on something like LinkedIn and just have like, oh, someone's done a really cool post. That's actually, I'm going to, write a reasonable comment and ask a question. And I think sometimes it's easier to make friends on LinkedIn than in person. But...
Oh, totally. I get it. The conference introvertedness is a deal. It's a thing. Like, I feel that because you're bombarded with all this information all day, and then you don't want to go out and like actually talk to people. Like, a lot of people don't want to do that. Some people like it. I like it, but but some people really despise it. So actually, you're right. This is a really good low barrier way to connect, and I'm hoping that we'll have LabMates influencers going out soon. LabMates connections, and I would love to see that. So with then LabMates, you've diversified a little bit. You have your own podcast, and then you have other things that you're doing. Tell me about some of the other things that you're doing other than the podcast.
Oh, what am I not doing?
Tell me everything.
Tell you everything. So the podcast is something I've wanted to do for a long time anyway, and it was sharing the like career paths that you can take after a PhD. That's kind of how it initiated, and now also thinking about the industry, academia, like conversations I can have after I've done sort of the first season. So I've been planning out that. I also am going to do some sort of like workshops, meetups for scientists who want to, hear about a particular topic. So I can do one on like LinkedIn and personal branding, because that seems to be a hot topic, and I spent enough time on there. And building visibility as a researcher, storytelling and like grant writing and pieces of that. So that there's lots of like things that I want to build, and some of them I can start with what I know, but in a very like community kind of way, not like in a serious workshop kind of way. But I might also bring in some experts, because obviously there's only so much that I know about a particular topic. I want to do one on commercialization, or it's more around like research impact, and have like sort of like short videos around that. And then I want to build out some of the communities and help them sort of like either sell their research services as in a community kind of way, like their expertise. Same with possibly supplier companies, and same with conferences. So some of
Yeah.
like the biotech kind of conferences that we have, and kind of bring people together on that community piece, but keep them connected ongoing, like well after a conference or an event. And it's kind of like helping people build communities with LabMates.
Yeah.
So there
A
is
lot.
no end to
Yeah.
the like list. It's just, yeah, I guess. And then same with kind of jobs as well and CV writing.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a big gap in that piece as well. So yes, I think I can easily fill my days.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing. And again, never ending, which is a good thing. You can always expand and expand and expand. It's what I love about building communities. It just never ends, which is great. So I have a final question for you, as you do in your podcast too.
You have
I
listened.
I have. So if you could tell yourself, a younger version of yourself, PhD student Maddie, one piece of advice about collaboration, what would it be?
I would always think about where the other person is coming from.
Right.
So in anything, and I mean, that should be for any relationship that you ever have anyway.
Right. That's so true.
Let's just assume that the person you're collaborating with is a good human, because like 99.9% of the time people are great humans.
Yeah.
And any
Absolutely.
problem you might have with them or misunderstanding is just a communication problem. Like,
Right.
you know, it's,
right.
you just need to kind of understand where someone else is coming from. And I think you will succeed in your collaboration if you can understand the people in the collaboration.
That is such an important point. And this kind of links to the previous episode we had with leadership. It's just so many people have different personalities, and you really do need to really see where they're coming from, like what you said. And it's a big part of communication, and listening is such a big part of that too. I think we're educated about communication in that we should public speak and we should be very vocal about what we want to say, and that's all great, but we don't get taught too much about listening. And so I think you make a great point there. So thank you, Maddie. Thank you for joining today. Really appreciated your thoughts. And where can people find you and also LabMates?
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast, Jessie. And you can find me on LinkedIn. Obviously, I'll be there. And LabMates is labmates.net. If you give that a Google search, you'll find us, or you can find us on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
And YouTube, I found with the podcast, right?
And the podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Okay, great. 3 ways you can join in with the podcast. Please do listen to Maddie's podcast because they are really great. You'll get a lot out of them, especially if you're transitioning or thinking of transitioning out of academia. So great for early career researchers and also obviously postdocs who are also early career researchers. So PhD students and early career researchers like postdocs. Yes, please go ahead and listen. Thank you again, Maddie. And I hope to see everyone back to come back next episode, please. And it'll be a great time having you next time. Okay, bye.